In today's video, we're going to be diving into the most common mistakes done here by new players in Marvel Strike Force. If you're just starting out in MSF, it's very easy to get overwhelmed by the vast roster of characters and game modes that are available. But don't worry, because in this video, we're going to be breaking down the top 10 mistakes for new players and how you can avoid those mistakes. So if you're ready for it, guys, let's get into it right now. All right, guys, so we're going to dive into the very first mistake here, which is investing into too many characters. However, before we do that, I want to first talk about what this guide is going to overall look like. Yes, we are going to be talking about the top 10 mistakes to avoid here as a new player in Marvel Strike Force, but this list is going to be more practical and conceptual as opposed to it being here are the characters that you should invest into, because I want to be mindful of the fact that you as a viewer potentially could be watching this video 4, 5, 6 months after watching it, after this video has been created here, and I don't want you to end up investing into a wrong character or not investing into a character that you should. So therefore, that is the reason why it's going to be more conceptual. The first 4 ones I'm going to talk about here in terms of mistakes could technically be grouped into one, but I just chose to separate them, and you'll understand why as we go through. But let's not tarry any longer. Let's dive right into the first one. It is investing into too many characters. I see this frequently nonstop where early players, they get excited, right? You get excited about the fact that you're getting these new characters and you just want to invest into every single one of them. But not every one of them are going to be worth your investment. This game is a resource management game, and you have to be very specific in regards to what you invest into, and you have to basically essentially make your money work for you, make your resources work for you, right? So you don't want to waste resources into the bad characters. Now, if you're asking the question, hey, what characters are good characters, since you're not going to talk about specific characters here, I'm going to recommend, it is my channel, so I'm going to recommend here that you do check out some of the videos that I do post on this channel, which cover that. There's a best beginner to mid-game characters video that I make every 2 to 3 months that talk about what characters are good. I also do make every now and again as well, a couple months, a heroes guide, a villains guide, things like that, to make sure that I'm giving you the most up-to-date information on what characters are worth investing into early on. But with that being said, the second mistake that I usually see players make, and this goes along with what I'm talking about here, is not implementing stopping points. Not implementing stopping points for your characters. Yes, you're going to want, once you finally select that character that you want to invest into, you find out that they're good enough to invest into earlier on. Not every character needs to be brought up to these really, really high levels, right? When I say stopping points, where do you need to bring that character to be able to get the content done that you need to get done? For some characters, it's going to be stopping them at level 25. For some characters, it's going to be stopping them at level 45, stopping them at level 60, and not bringing them any higher than that. Are they good enough to get you through the early portion of the content? Absolutely. But you want to implement stopping points to make sure that you do not over invest. What will happen in Marvel Strike Force is that you're going to get some early characters, and they're not going to be the greatest, but they're going to be useful to be able to get you to a certain point. But then you're going to get new characters or other characters that are better, that are going to be better for you long term. So then you want to invest into those characters. So investing stopping points into some of the early characters that you do get prevents you from, once again, overutilizing your resources, making sure that you're only invested into, I guess my rule of thumb here is, if you need to do a specific game mode or content, you invest into the character until the point where they can actually do it. Once they can do it, you stop your investment, because a new character might come along that will replace them. Or if that character, like I said, is underperforming, but you find out that there's other characters that are better, then you pivot and you go in that direction of investing into those characters. Implementing stopping points is very important. One of the ones that I usually recommend first off is usually like level 25, tier 5, with their abilities at 3, 2, 2, 1. Then my next stopping point is usually level 38, then it's level 45, then it's like level 50, 55, then 60. But those are just stopping points just to make sure that, once again, you're not over investing. And you're also kind of, if you have teams that you're building, then you bring those teams up to those specific stopping points as well. And then once again, of course, if they're doing the content the way that you need them to do the content, don't invest any higher. because you may replace them with better characters later on as you continue to go. Hopefully that wasn't confusing. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. Happy to help out where that is concerned. All right, and the next thing I wanted to talk about here, the third mistake that I usually see players make is that they don't have a specific plan. They don't know what they want to do, right? There's a lot of game, and it's not really your fault. There's not really like a great in-game guide in regards to what you should do, but there's like arena that pops up, and you have Blitz, and then you have campaign nodes, and you have raids, and at some point in time, you're gonna unlock Alliance War, and it's Cosmic Crucible. There's a bunch of game modes and things that you have to pay attention to, and you have these characters, you're just like, what do I invest into? How do I invest into this? So you have to have a plan, and you have to have a priority in regards to what is important. If you're a beginner player, I would say your very first priority is focusing on your campaigns. That's going to be your heroes campaign, your villains campaign, and it's going to be Nexus, Cosmic campaign, your Mystic campaign, and then later on as you progress through the game is going to be your Doom campaigns. You're going to have the harder difficulties for the heroes campaign and the villains campaigns. That I would focus on first, your campaigns. And the second mode that I will focus on here would be arena, because arena is going to be pretty important here, because this is where you're going to be able to get these little purple items that are power cores. You need these for your campaign energy refreshes. You're going to want to be able to you're going to want to do well here. So I would say your team that you're going to want to invest into first is you're going to want to invest into your teams for your campaigns. You're going to want to invest into a good arena team, probably simultaneously, right? A good arena team. And then I would say probably a third important game mode is going to be your raid content. This is going to be something that you're going to be doing with your alliance, but doing your raid, but investing into a good raid team. You're only going to need one in the very beginning is going to be good for you as well, because you want to be able to get those resources from there. There's like ability materials, there's gear. You're going to want to invest into there. And then I would say like trickling down, your challenges are going to be pretty important. You're going to unlock different challenges here. That would be where I would probably go next. And there's things like flash events that come around every single month. You're going to want to look at some flash events. Then as you unlock certain things later on, like War and Cosmic Crucible, you want to focus on those. I would say Cosmic Crucible first, as opposed to Alliance War. And there's only specific flash events that I think are good as well. I should have pulled them up before this video, but Payday, Block Party, Chaos Theory, and Back to Boot Camp will probably be the ones that I will focus on initially, that you want to get characters for or build characters for. But once again, don't overstimulate yourself here. Don't go too crazy. Invest incrementally. Take it one step at a time here. Do not overwhelm yourself. That's probably one of the things I should have said, right? Do not overwhelm yourself. Kind of chip away at it. Rome is not built in a day. You're going to want to make sure that you're aware of things, but focus on one thing at a time, in my personal opinion. And then also pay attention to characters that are going to overlap. Characters are going to be good for your campaigns, that are going to be good for arena. They're going to be good for raids. Once again, I talk about what those characters are in my specific character game guides every 2 to 3 months. So take a look at that here on the channel. And then my last one that kind of fits in within this group here, number 4, is just not knowing when to pivot. And this happens quite often. Like it's very similar to not over investing, not implementing stopping points, but there are times where a character is good, right? For instance, let's say like maybe Shang-Chi probably is going to be on that list. Like he's a good character and I recommend him a lot. I probably still recommend him, but there's a certain point where Shang-Chi may not be good anymore for you to invest into. For late game players, because this character used to be good for late game raids, but now there's a team that's taken over. You have to know when to pivot from characters. You may like a character, you may have already been invested into the character, and it may frustrate you. But once you find out that there's going to be a character replacing that character, you need to pivot. Don't just say, well, I'm already at level 52. I want to bring them up to level 60. That doesn't make any sense. Save your gold. Knowing when to pivot from these characters is going to be a very good thing for you long term. Next thing I want to talk about here in terms of mistakes is early players ignoring this beginner Blitz chart. I'm going to say this right now. I absolutely hate Blitz. I don't like the game mode personally, but very early on, until you get to level 60, or from 1 to level 60, you are in a early beginner Blitz chart, which basically means that you are blitzing and competing with other players that are around the same level that you are, from 1 to 60. Once you get to level 60, you're competing with everybody, right? So if you're blitzing and the rewards for shards here for ranking or as such to be able to get Kingpin shards. Not necessarily a useful character, but not necessarily a great character. But for your rank rewards here, you're going to be competing with, after level 60, you're going to be competing with everybody that's been playing Marvel Strike Force for 3-4 years, right? 5 years. But when you're in a beginner Blitz shard, once you first start out, you're only going to be competing with players that are around 1 to level 60 as you are. So it's a really good time frame for you to kind of really go hard on Blitz. Here's the thing though, you're not going to have a bunch of teams that you can use for Blitz anyways. So kind of take this information, I guess, to a certain extent with a grain of salt. But once you do start kind of getting some more teams here and you can kind of spread out your blitzing, then take advantage of that, because there are sometimes some characters that are not necessarily new, but characters that are going to be helpful to you on your roster. So taking advantage of doing your blitzes or your blitz rotations is going to be helpful. Once again, if it is confusing, you let me know. You leave it in the comments. I'm not expecting for you to know forget everything that I'm talking about here off the rip. There are going to be things that I know that you're going to have to ask questions about. Join the Discord, ask in the comments. I'm definitely very happy and willing, because this is what I do. I like to help out beginner players. So please feel free to do so. The next thing I want to talk about here is farming ISOs. So once you do get, or isotopes is what you're gonna probably, if you're brand new to the game here, we shorten by saying ISOs, but there's an isotope campaign here. And once you get to level 50, I believe that you unlock this, and you're able to go through each one of these nodes, and you want to 3-star them so that you can then farm these individual ISO crystals. One of the things that I see a lot of beginner players do is that they don't farm their ISOs early, because you're gonna need these for, oh my goodness, just hit my mic. You're gonna need these for different you're gonna need this for different legendary unlocks. You're gonna need it for some of the flash events. You're gonna want to make sure that you have ISOs available, that you're farming ISOs. I actually highlight 5 characters here that I want to farm, that I farm ISOs on, because they're broken down. So your ISOs, which are these pieces right here, that's what you're seeing, the ISO 8. Your ISOs are broken down into 5 different traits. So your controller, your blaster, your brawler, your, oh my goodness, your protector. And there's one other one. I can never remember these off the top of my head. Controller, support. Support is the 5th one here. So you're going to want to farm. You're going to want to farm your ISOs here. You're going to want to go into these individual crystals. You're going to want to do inventory checks. That's probably another thing that I should say here is you're also going to want to do inventory checks to make sure that you're seeing sort of like what resources you have, so that what you need to farm for character shards, for gear, things of that nature here. But this here, being able to farming your ISOs is going to be very important. You don't want to ignore this, because like I said, you're going to need this for some legendary unlocks. In the future, you're going to need ISOs for raid nodes. You're going to need ISOs as you move forward. So it's a good thing to be able to kind of get into a habit of being able to farm these ISOs here. I'm sorry, my daughter's talking to me, so just making sure that everything is okay while we're recording this video. But yes, making sure that you're farming your ISOs here is very important. But we can go into like a deep, I think what I might want to do here is just go into like a specific video where I talk about ISOs for beginners. Although this might be outdated content, I realize that there's always new players coming into Marvel Strike Force. So maybe in the future, what I'll do here is let me know if you need me to do a beginner video specifically talking about ISOs and how to farm those and things like that moving forward. All right, the next thing I want to talk about here are cores. So we talked about this earlier, the currency that you do get from doing your arena attacks here. And I'm going to cut this off pretty soon, because I realize that we're going pretty long here. I don't want to overwhelm anybody's brain, but I do want to talk about cores here. So your cores are very important, because you want to use these for your campaign energy refreshes. I would go to the hundreds. Every day you can spend 50 cores a couple times to be able to get campaign energy refreshes. Once you unlock more campaign nodes, you're going to want to farm those individual campaign nodes for character shards, gear, etc. But one of the things that I do see a lot of players do with cores is that they actually waste them a little bit here. They overspend their cores. They'll come into the store, and we're actually going to be skipping the store in this video. I'm going to do a separate guide on stores for beginners. I'm going to do that later on. But I do see at times where somebody will come into the store and, you know, they'll spend cores on an orb here, or they'll spend cores on a Blitz orb, or they'll spend cores on a campaign or a new character. that gets released into Marvel Strike Force. And while like to the end game point, and if you're good with your getting cores, doing something like this for a new character, 675 for a new character isn't terrible, but I wouldn't say for a beginner player to get into the practice of doing this. This is something that I would absolutely avoid. So for your cores, earlier on, I would just use them for your campaign energy refreshes and your ISO campaign energy refreshes. That's the only place where I would use your cores. Just in the beginning. As you progress throughout the game, things like this become a little bit more valuable to you if you are doing very well in your arena and you don't necessarily need to save them because you're pretty good at managing your cores. Maybe you don't need to do so many campaign energy refreshes anymore because you're kind of good where that's concerned. Then maybe you can have those cores to be able to core for new characters as they get released in the Marvel Strike Force. But I do see where a lot of players typically tend to overspend on the cores that they have here in Marvel Strike Force and then wonder why they don't have enough of it. All right, and then also want to talk about this here. I see a lot of beginner players do a lot of there's too much emphasis on legendary characters in Marvel Strike Force, and people get bogged down because there's some older guides that are out there, some old videos that are out there, some of them probably mine, where I talk about focusing on legendary characters. Right now, that's not true in Marvel Strike Force. There's only a select amount of legendary characters that you need to focus on. Morgan Le Fay, Red Hulk, Rogue, Archangel, Omega Red to an extent, but even more so, you need Nick Fury and you need Magneto and Shuri more than you need some of these other characters. Anybody else here that's a legendary character, you can kind of ignore them, right? So, except for maybe Iron Man. Adam Warlock, not necessary anymore, I don't think, not for a beginner player to get him. I'm using Adam Warlock every day in endgame right now, but for a beginner player, I don't necessarily know if this is something that I recommend to go after trying to get Adam Warlock, because you need to also get Jubilee and X Factor characters in order to be able to get Adam Warlock. I just don't think that value is going to be there, although X Factor will be used for future legendary. So maybe you might fall into that anyways. Phoenix, Ebony Maw, and some people may argue with me on Invisible Woman and Star-Lord because they're needed for a Flash event, which is called Nowhere Heist. I just don't think that you need to really care about that. One, the resources that you get from that just don't really add up for you to go out of your way to try to get these legendary characters to be able to get, like, think about it, like the resources that you're getting from that Nowhere Heist Flash event, it doesn't really add up to you going hard on trying to get Invisible Woman and get Star-Lord. Like, it just doesn't add up, right, for me. So I see too much emphasis sometimes on getting legendary characters. There's only a few of them that are actually really important. Morgan Le Fay, Red Hulk, Rogue, Archangel, you need to be able to unlock Apocalypse. Apocalypse is relevant right now in Marvel Strike Force. As a beginner player, that probably doesn't really matter to you immensely because it's going to take you a while for you to be able to get there anyways. Nick Fury is important for Raid Team. Magneto is important because he's on one of those legendary horseman teams. Shuri, you will need for Chaos Theory, and that's pretty important, but you can also use for a legendary unlock at Archangel. Don't want to talk about too many characters here, though, but I'm just saying too much emphasis on legendaries is something that I do see. One of the last ones I want to talk about here is Alliance, and not necessarily getting into a good alliance. Sure, that you want to get into a good alliance. That's obvious, right? You want to do the best that you could possibly do in every single thing that you do in Marvel Strike Force. What I'm talking about here when it pertains to alliance is making sure that you get into an alliance that plays at the pace that you do, right? So if you're a heavy, sweaty player, you want to get into a heavy, sweaty alliance. If you're a casual player, you want to get into a casual alliance. Alliances are important for progression in Marvel Strike Force, but more importantly, it's good that you get into an alliance that is playing the game at the pace that you're playing. Because obviously, if you get into an alliance, if you're casual and then you have a super sweaty alliance, your experience in this game is going to be incredibly miserable. If you're a very sweaty player and you get into a casual alliance, it's going to be a miserable experience, right? So making sure that you get into an alliance that is playing at your pace is very important. There are Discord channels for this stuff. There are also Discord channels. MSF.gg is something that can help out now with that as well. You can try in-game, like global chat. I would probably avoid that. I would say probably using the Discord, the MSF Discord, or other Discords that you're connected to. There's a Discord channel, and there's a Discord. I have a Discord channel, and there's a channel specifically dedicated towards posting that you're looking for an alliance. That's there as well. You can take advantage of that. And there's a lot of other content creators Discords that also do the same thing, so check those out too. I also recommend too that you listen to a lot of content creators. Don't just listen to me, listen to other content creators as well, because I have a view on one thing and you may find that you have a better, that you've like somebody else's view, and then you can put those two views together, right, and then make your own sort of style that you want to do here in Marvel Strike Force. That would be one thing that I would recommend too. And then the last thing I want to talk about here is just having fun, right? Just having fun in MSF, trying to do the best that you possibly can here to enjoy the game. There's going to be a lot of things that you're going to be forced to do because you have to do it for content, but then there are going to be things that we're going to recommend that you probably just do because you just enjoy it, right? Like I invest into a lot of characters that I just like to invest into for fun. Previously, before that was like my Young Avengers team. Right now, I don't really have a passion project per se, but I'm probably going to get one very soon. But I like to call them passion projects, where I just ultimately invest into characters that I just really like because I am a Marvel fan. Like I'm a massive Marvel nerd, like comic book nerd. Like, so therefore I invest into a lot of characters at times that I just typically tend to enjoy. So that's the last step I'm going to leave with you here. Hopefully this was helpful. I did try to put some timestamps in here to make sure that you can kind of click around. Maybe you want to come back to a certain specific section that will be more helpful for you later on. Like I said, ask comments, leave it down below. Join the Discord, ask questions there. I'm going to be streaming more very soon. Tuesdays, I'm going to be streaming. Tuesday nights, I'm going to be streaming here on Twitch. And then on Thursdays, I'm going to be streaming on YouTube. So if you want to come in there and ask questions there specifically too, that, you know, I welcome that as well. But listen, hopefully this was a helpful information for you here. Check out some of the other videos on my channel, specifically targeted at beginners and new players here. That's something going to be helpful for you. Check out the links that are down below in the description. Look forward to seeing you guys next time. And until next time, guys, y'all be blessed. Y'all be safe.